Hello and welcome to Penelope's Chinwag. I hope you're all well. Thanks for joining me. This week we've been away to Gidleigh on Dartmoor. Dartmoor's a place that we've been to as a family, well, all my married life. We rode on Dartmoor, and Pete's mum and dad lived near Dartmoor, and so it's a place very dear to our hearts. And we have found a hotel that we absolutely love, and we've got to know the people there, and as soon as we get there we feel we just settle down and make the most of our little trip away. So it's been lovely, a break. The weather has cooled a bit now. We took warm clothes. I took 3 scarves actually, because Dartmoor's usually chilly. Even in the summer there's, a chill to it. But no, it was 30 degrees, which meant that we sat on the terrace and we had dinner one night and just enjoyed our cups of tea out there and really made the most of being outside. It was gorgeous. As soon as we just went down the garden a bit, there's the river, and usually it's in full spate, a lot of water, but it was it was very, very low. But as soon as you got down there, you could feel that coolness, and it was lovely. We saw a lot of birds. We didn't see too many because there's full leaves on the trees. But we heard, with Merlin telling us, we heard a great deal. Firecrest came up every day, and goldcrest, and firecrest is one of the, it's the smallest bird in Britain, I think. So that's a treat always. Tree creepers and birds we don't get, because I live right in the east of the country and Devon is in the west. So that's what I've been up to with Pete. It was very nice because one day we had a trip out, and I do ancestry, and I found out that my mum's dad, who I didn't know because he died when I was 2, but he knew me, which was lovely to know. Well, his dad had an unusual name, Henry Capel. His middle name was Capel, surname Tolman, Henry Capel Tolman. And his dad was called Capel. They were both cordwainers, which is shoe and boot makers. He was born in 1833, Henry Capel. He lived in Honiton, and that is near Exeter, and that is near Dartmoor. So we thought we'd have a day out and see if we could find the place where he lived. I didn't hold out much hope at all. 1833. Well, he was a boarder in a house in Vine Passage in Honiton when he was 16. When he was 23, he got married, and he got married in Pentonville Road, just by King's Cross in London. And so that's where most of my ancestors come from, on my dad's side and my mum's side. But yeah, he came from, Henry Capel came from Honiton. Honiton's a small market town and very famous for its lace. In fact, one of the ladies that were boarding in the house with him in Vine Passage was a lace maker. And so I thought, can we see if we can find this Vine Passage? And we did. In actual fact, there was a beautiful car park. Out we got, just crossed over the road, and there it was. So it was the easiest place to find. But one of the most beautiful, it is still a passage as it was then. We found Vine Cottage, and opposite Vine Cottage is a pub. And I popped in the pub and said, how long has this pub been here? Oh, she said, hundreds of years. So I think the pub must have been there when he lived in the cottage. And opposite the pub now is a garden, and I wondered if there was a few more cottages where the garden is now. Not sure, I don't know, but definitely that would need some more research. But I've done all the research I need, really. I found out where my great-grandad Henry Capel was living when he was apprentice to a shoe and boot maker. On his marriage certificate in 1856 in London, he put a cross, just an X, by his name. So he obviously didn't learn to read and write, but I think he did learn how to make good shoes and boots. He was still alive when he was 71, and that pleases me because that's a good age in those days to live. He lived with his wife in Pentonville Road, which is just by King's Cross, and his daughter Elizabeth was living with him. She was 41, and her 3 children, one of whom was my granddad. Yeah, so she'd lost her husband. I think he died the year before. So that was sad. She had a little girl of 3. My granddad was 17, his brother was 18. So, yeah, it was nice for her to live with her dad for a little while. I know she made quite an unhappy marriage after that, and the children left home straight away. But that's another story. So I was pleased to find Vine Passage. We also went, after we did that, to Coldharbour Mill. And Coldharbour Mill is one of the oldest woolen mills in the UK, having been in continuous production since 1797. Isn't that amazing? Originally owned by world-renowned textile producers, the Fox Brothers. And there was quite a lot of history in the mill about the Fox Brothers. Maybe I'll tell you about that another time. Today, their rich heritage lives on as one of the finest working wool museums, where visitors can relive the sights and sounds of the Industrial Revolution. And so it's run by volunteers now. And of course, I bought some wool. It's lovely that volunteers are making it. I'll show you what I bought. This is the Wild Devon collection, and it's all there. If you go on their website, it's all there to purchase. She said, do please let people know, so I am. 100% pure new wool, and I bought double knit because I have quite a bit of 4-ply to knit up, and I thought it would be nice to do double knit, a bit thicker. And this colour's mallow, my favourite colour. I also bought of the same ilk Frost. Yeah, Frost. And then I bought some blue-faced Leicester. I knew it's very hard to say that. Blue-faced Leicester. And it is absolutely scrumptious, and I should be buying some more of this. All of this is non-superwash. She was quite keen to tell me that. It's the Natural Collection, and 233 metres in the 100 grams. The Natural Colour. And I should be buying some more of this, definitely. I think Pete would like a double knit jumper in this. And then I couldn't resist this. She had a big barrel of the Wild Devon collection wool, and there's apricot, mint, and I think the two combined here. That's quite fun. That's 100 grams. So I got 400 grams of wool, one of which was a blue-faced Leicester, and that lot cost me £39, which is less than half of what you can pay for wool. So I was really pleased with that. But particularly this, I think I shall send off for some more of this and knit Pete a jumper. Or myself? I don't know. We'll see. But it's beautiful. Colour ash. So that was our little trip out. So I think I'll read you my story now. And last time, if you remember, I went home from Doreen's party with Peter. My mum and dad said I could, and I did. And when we got there, Grace was prizing the wax jelly moulds, the little fluted ones, off the side. And Pete and I got chatting, she was in the kitchen, and just we walked in and said hello, and of course it was New Year's Eve. Well, we didn't stay at the party, Doreen's party, till midnight. We didn't walk in and say, oh, Happy New Year to Pete's mum. Oh, well, she just made me a cup of tea and I helped to prise the jellies off the side because they'd set firm. So we got Pete and I just chatting about that. And I wrote a little bit to go with my story about it. So, in case you're new here, I wrote my story in 2003, and I've been reading it in segments over the last, few months really now, I think. And I met Pete last week, but it was a bit of a cliffhanger as to whether, he said that he was in the army, and I knew that I wouldn't be going out with anybody in the army or marrying anybody in the army because I had a bit of a fear about anything connected with that, as I said last week. So the mattress had been put down in the front room. I'd settled myself down and in walked Pete. So we were having this conversation. And that's where we'll start. Why are you in the army? I asked. You didn't actually volunteer, did you? I joined the Territorial Army first, part-time, in the Royal Corps of Transport, he said, with a shrug. Did it with a few mates so we could get army licences. Back then, the police would often turn a blind eye to speeding if you had one. Then I started to enjoy it. The nearest recruitment office was in Finchley, so I popped in, and before I knew it, I'd signed up full-time. I wanted to stay in the RCT, but I was already a trained chef and they talked me into joining the Army Catering Corps. They said I'd get more money and faster promotion because of the experience I'd had. You're a trained chef? Oh yes, I worked in the Trocadero and Hyde Park Hotel, but after I left I found myself at a loose end and decided to join up. How long are you in for? I asked. I wanted him to say something short. 6 months? Maybe less? I signed up for 21 years, he said at last. But there's an option to come out after 6, 12 or 15. I've done 1.5 years so far. He put his arm around me, warm and reassuring. Doesn't bother you, does it? No, I lied. But I think I need to sleep now, and I'm worried your mum and dad will hear us talking. OK, he whispered, night-night, see you in the morning. It was 9 o'clock when I was woken with a cup of tea and a happy grin. Did you sleep all right? Peter asked. Not too bad, thanks. January the 1st, 1967, I thought to myself. The words sounded strange, unfamiliar, a new year. Peter had left the tea on the dining table and disappeared into the kitchen. I had a look around and saw that I'd slept in a small room overlooking a pretty garden and fields beyond. I got dressed and felt awful. I had nothing with me but a lipstick and a comb. No fresh clothes, no toothbrush, no clue where I was really. Not even a plan for getting home. All I wanted was to slip away unnoticed, to close my eyes and be back home. Maybe they'd take me. Maybe they wouldn't. I'd just have to wait and see. I walked into the kitchen and Grace, Peter's mum, was already making breakfast. Peter, meanwhile, was washing and brushing his teeth at the kitchen sink. We do have a bathroom, he said, but we always use the kitchen. I don't know why. Probably because it's the warmest place. He grinned, and it was. There was a happy atmosphere, people being themselves, no pretense. Where am I? I asked, trying not to sound completely lost. I know it's Potter's Bar, but I've never really been here before. Alton Crescent, Peter said, but this is Mum and Dad's last few days here. They're moving next week. Oh, I told you that last night, didn't I? Sorry. Peter lived in the barracks now, and Grace and Len had asked him if he minded a move. They decided to semi-retire in Devon. Just like that, a whole life packed up and moved away. It made me feel strange, because the place where I'd just started to make memories was already disappearing. I wandered through the bungalow, taking it in. It was small, cosy really, and I couldn't believe a whole family lived here. I think it was my first time in a bungalow. Surely you missed having an upstairs? I asked. I'd grown used to my spacious 5-bedroomed house, almost taken it for granted. Funny really, I'd forgotten all about my tiny flat in Tottenham. It's the party for my boys tonight, said Grace, a little sparkle in her eyes. I wasn't quite sure what she meant at first, but it turned out she adored Peter's friends, and they adored her right back. Before he joined the army, they used to gather at the house before heading out on their scooters, sometimes as many as 12 parked outside all at once. She was throwing this party as a kind of send-off, a proper goodbye. I had some breakfast, still feeling slightly out of place, and then Peter's friend, Mick, turned up. I'll take you home if you like, he offered kindly. So the three of us, Peter, Mick and I, said our goodbyes to Grace and Len. I thanked her sincerely for putting me up. She didn't make me feel like a stranger, and that meant more than she probably realised. I'll see you tonight, she said. When I got home, I caught sight of myself in the mirror. I looked dreadful. Hair flat, face tired, makeup smudged. That feeling of not being enough crept in again, and I started to doubt whether I could face going back to the party at all. I wouldn't know anyone. Still, I crawled into bed, slept most of the afternoon, and when I came to, I decided I'd go. I was still nervous, still shy, but I'd go. Dad said he'd take me. When I arrived, the bungalow was full. Music playing, everyone enjoying themselves. "Hi," said Peter, "glad you could come." Then came the whirlwind of introductions. Mick, Ronnie, Roger, Ian, Jim, Arthur, Dave. The names blurred together. The Potter's Bar boys, the Boreham Wood boys, the St Albans boys, even a group from the Isle of Wight. I smiled and nodded, trying to keep up, but inside I wanted to disappear. I just wanted to hold Peter's hand and stay close, to feel safe. But he was in his element. This was his territory. Everyone here knew him well, had shared stories, laughs, years together. Someone handed me a drink and I made polite conversation, though I was hardly listening. I kept looking for Peter, and every time I found him, he seemed to be deep in conversation with a girl called Sally. She looked older than me, more confident, like she belonged. They laughed easily together. I watched them from a distance. I tried not to let it show, but I felt small, too young, too unsure, too much on the outside of everything. At about 11 it was time to go. I told myself if it was just late, that I was tired, but I was beginning to feel overwhelmed. Ronnie offered to take me home and I accepted. Peter had disappeared, dropping some girls to catch the last tube, and so I couldn't say goodbye. I remember that car journey as if it happened this morning. I got into Ronnie's Ford Anglia, and after telling him where I lived, we set off. After a while he asked, Are you going out with Peter? I looked straight ahead. Well, I thought I was, but now I don't know. There was a silence. Then I added, trying to sound casual, "Who's Sally?" "Oh, they've known each other for years," he said. "They can't make up their minds about each other." And then, unexpectedly, he added, "If you're not going out with Peter, would you like to come out with me?" It was kind, but I didn't even hesitate. I didn't let him down gently. No thanks. I didn't need to think about it. The only person I wanted to go out with was at his party, and I was heading home, not knowing if I'd ever see him again. Although, feeling my cold hands, I must have left my gloves behind. So there we are. But I did write this because Pete and I got chatting about New Year's Day. It's funny to think now, but back then, New Year's Day wasn't a public holiday in England. Most people just carried on as normal. Shops were open, milk was delivered. It was an ordinary working day. No fireworks or big TV shows. It was absolutely freezing that year. In Kent, where I live now, at Pegwell Bay, just along the coast a bit, the sea froze over. The temperature was minus 19 degrees centigrade, minus 2.2 Fahrenheit. The pavements were treacherous, and you could see your breath hanging in the air like fog. I remember that because, do you remember from the party, we walked to the phone box and phoned my mum, and I just remember in my little pink dress feeling frozen solid. Everyone was wrapped up in scarves and big coats just to go down the road. It was that sort of cold that made your fingers ache. I always wore leather gloves. And going home in the car with Ronnie, my hands were freezing. That's when I remembered I'd left my gloves at Peter's house. But while writing this, it got me thinking, when did New Year's Day become a proper celebration here? Well, in Scotland, they've celebrated Hogmanay for ages, and New Year's Day has been a public holiday there since 1871. But in England, Wales and Northern Ireland, it didn't become a public holiday until 1974. Mainly because by the 1970s, more people were staying up to see in the new year, especially once we had TV, bringing the party into our front rooms. So in 1974, the government gave us the day off. So in 1966, when Peter's mate at the hospital advised him to work Christmas, as everyone that could was sent home and it was quiet, but working over the new year was busy as everyone was back. Everyone being all the patients in the hospital. That meant Peter could attend his mum's party, but more importantly, for our lives together, he could attend Doreen's party where we met. So his mate telling him to have New Year off and me leaving, well, my mum deciding that I could stay over, and then me leaving my gloves there. Well, it all sort of added up and made the perfect storm. So I hope you found that interesting and it's brought back memories for you, because I know my story often jogs your memory too. So time for the film now. And with the heat on that first day when we got to the hotel, Pete sat down and I ordered a cup of tea and he had a Peroni, and it was just so beautiful. I went for a little wander, and there's a small kitchen garden there that just supplies the kitchen, you know, with the soft fruit and the bits that it needs. And I sat there and it was absolutely idyllic. The butterflies were all around me. The silence was there. The heat was there. It was just beautiful. And so I took a little film with my phone. And it got me thinking about the butterflies again, of course. Butterflies' wings are so delicate, aren't they? We know that. You don't really want to touch one, do you? Because you feel, oh, you could so easily damage it. But somehow their wings stay dry and clean. And the researchers in Ohio State University, they took a closer look at the giant blue morpho butterfly. And they found that even though the wings look smooth to us, they're actually covered in tiny overlapping scales, like roof tiles. And each one of those scales has even tinier grooves that helps the water and the dirt slide off. And so they decided that they would copy that design, and they make things like medical equipment and high-tech surfaces that stay clean and dry just by copying that blue morpho butterfly's wings. And then researchers from the Exeter University, which is where we got off the train and head for Dartmoor, they investigated whether they could make solar panels more effective by replicating the butterfly's V-shaped pose. And on doing so, they found that the amount of power produced increased by almost 50%. The researchers also noticed that the surface of the butterfly's wing is highly reflective. And by imitating the V-shaped pose, that wing structure, they produced more lighter and more efficient solar panels. And that led them to call the cabbage white butterfly an expert at harvesting solar energy. So that's a little film for the end this week. Me sitting in the kitchen garden watching the butterflies, and I hope you have a quiet moment too with me. So I'll see you soon. Thanks so much for watching, and thanks for all your marvellous comments, and for joining me yet again for Penelope's Chinwag. Bye bye.